So, after a 9-month break, Doctor Who returns to our screens with 12 brand new episodes and a Christmas special, kicking things off with a 2-part story written by Steven Moffat, The Magician's Apprentice, and The Witch's Familiar. The story follows the disappearance of the Doctor, again, who believes he's going to die, again, and has sent Missy his confession dial, also known as a plot thread that will be teased across a few episodes but not actually get resolved until Steven Moffat can be bothered to. Again. But UNIT sends Clara Oswald to meet Missy, and together they locate the Doctor in the Middle Ages, where he is spending his final night. It is revealed that the Doctor on his travels went to save a young boy, but disappeared when he realised that the child was in fact a younger Davros, creator of the Daleks. Meanwhile, Davros' servant Colony Sarf has been searching the universe for the disappeared Time Lord with a message that Davros knows and Davros remembers. The Doctor, Clara and Missy are kidnapped by Sarf and become trapped on Skaro, where the Doctor confronts a dying Davros, and Clara and Missy must face an army of Daleks. The whole story is based around a line from 1974's Genesis of the Daleks, where the Fourth Doctor asked Sarah Jane if someone pointed out a child to you and told you that that child would grow up totally evil, a ruthless dictator. Could you then kill that child? This is an interesting question that could make a fascinating story, but the story this is based on was shown over 40 years ago, and oddly enough wasn't actually said about Davros, but the Daleks. So, let me get this straight. Steven Moffat is basing an episode about the Doctor's decision whether or not to kill a younger Davros around a quote from a 40-year-old episode that was about the Daleks and not Davros. Right. If there's one thing I can definitely praise in the episodes, it's the performances. Peter Capaldi brings much more humour to the Doctor this time, and while I did find some moments slightly out of character, Capaldi himself brings a definite sense of consistency to the role. He seems a lot more relaxed and comfortable in his role as the Doctor, and his Doctor himself has become a lot more comfortable in this incarnation. The scene where he arrived playing the electric guitar on a tank was just hilarious, as well as when he was chatting to the Daleks in Davros' chair, with my favourite line being, "Admit it, we've all had this exact nightmare." These and the brief vampire monkeys scenes were all classic, brilliant Steven Moffat moments that show just how creative and funny Doctor Who can be. On the opposite side of the spectrum though, we had the UNIT scene, where Clara ironically seemed to be the only person actually acting like a UNIT officer, and everyone else seemed to be incredibly stupid, unless a brief explanation demanded them to say, "Oh, it's a telepathic message," or something. This felt really distracting, nonsensical, and just unnecessary. Although, so did most of part 1, but I'll get back to that later. Jenna Coleman was good as Clara, although the writing for her in these episodes wasn't actually very good. She might as well have been cut from the episodes entirely. The script allowed her no chemistry of any kind with Missy, and all she seemed to do was just fill in the role of the Doctor's companion in this story. I had hoped that with such a strong focus on Clara's character in Series 8 that the days of her just filling in the role of the Doctor's companion were behind us, but this story seemed to prove otherwise. Hopefully she'll be written better in the next story. Jenna Coleman herself was good, but she had absolutely nothing to work with over the course of the 2 episodes, which, considering how amazing she is when the writers actually do give her something to work with, is just very disappointing. Just go back and watch the ending to Kill the Moon from last year if you want more evidence as to how great she can be. Although, just the ending, don't bother with the rest. No, seriously. Really don't bother. Michelle Gomez, on the other hand, stole every single scene she was in. While she isn't the master, no, not by a long shot, the combination of script and actress has never been as perfect as it is here. She was able to play so many different facets of Missy incredibly well, from the deadpan humour to the downright insane moments to the very quiet and pure evil moments. The way she led the Doctor on to murder the Dalek Clara was trapped in at the end of the story was just perfectly played. The only other main character in the story was Davros, once again played by Julian Bleach. While I wasn't very keen on the way that Davros was written and acted in 2008's Stolen Earth and Journey's End, here Bleach really impresses with the character written much more like the evil genius from Genesis of the Daleks. While it is slightly odd that despite Davros' major design change in 1988's Remembrance of the Daleks, the series continues to use the original design, now with an updated chair and robotic hand, but as I do prefer that design, I can let that go. Bleach is just brilliant as Davros though, managing to trick the audience into almost sympathising with the Khalid scientist, only to pull the rug out from under them and reveal he was tricking everyone all along. However, this plot twist was actually very disappointing, even more so when it was revealed that the Doctor as well had been tricking Davros all along. This just completely ruined the two scenes together where Davros and the Doctor acted more as equals than enemies, with them knowing that this is Davros' last night to live. This just would have been a fantastic redemption arc for Davros, but the ending ruins it. I love the character of Davros, but I feel that this story, being about his death, should have actually ended with his death. We do have chronology gaps in Davros' timeline, so we can still have future stories set before this, but alas, Steven Moffat seems to have plans to bring him back later on. I also wasn't a fan of Davros being able to open his eyes. It asked a big glaring question as to why Davros has a robotic eye in the first place if he can open his normal Khalid eyes. This isn't explained in the episode, or at least no one I've asked seems to have any kind of explanation for it other than that Davros was just being extremely lazy all these years. It did lead to a great emotional moment, which was of course ruined by the ending, but this was just such a glaring plot hole that never got explained that it just ruined the entire scene for me. Oh, and that ending. That ending. The Daleks got defeated by their own sewer system. I'm not sure whether to make a joke about this or question the idea that Dalek mutants are immortal and just decay over time, or even ask about the billions of unanswered questions left over from the Doctor giving Davros and the Daleks regeneration energy. Can the Daleks actually regenerate? How does this regeneration work exactly? Did the Daleks' mutations get fixed? If not, how did the decaying Daleks grow back to normal Daleks? Why didn't Davros regenerate into a normal Khalid? How did the cables connect every single Dalek on Skaro to Davros to spread this regeneration? Is the whole Dalek city and every Dalek with it completely destroyed now? So many questions have been brought up, but no answers are provided from Steven Moffat, which is all the more infuriating considering that this story was spread over 100 minutes of screen time. These were two 50-minute episodes dedicated to this plot, and the resolution wasn't explained properly. There was also the element of the Doctor's death. This seemed to be forgotten about by the end of The Magician's Apprentice, and his disappearance seemed to take up a majority of the episode's screen time, meaning that a good 2/3 of part 1 could have been cut. In fact, the entire story could have been one 60-minute episode. We could have begun the episode straight after Last Christmas, without all this about the Doctor's death and his confession. With just the Doctor and Clara being kidnapped by the Daleks to be sent to Davros. Colin himself was just a wasted villain whose role in the plot could have easily been filled in by the Daleks, with no explanation as to who exactly he is in the episode, or any creative use of him being made of snakes. Missy in the grand scheme of things wasn't actually needed in the story, especially if everything about the Doctor's disappearance was cut out. The story just felt unbelievably padded out, which made it all the more disappointing considering that this is the second two-part story since 2011. It doesn't really bode well for a series that mostly consists of two-part episodes. I would much rather have watched an episode focused entirely on the death of Davros, which, by the way, is a much more suitable title than The Magician's Apprentice and The Witch's Familiar. Oh no, I've got to think of some good stuff now. The production design, especially of the Dalek city on Skaro, was very reminiscent of the original city from 1963's The Dead Planet, and the interior corridors looked very creepy. It was also great to see the original 60s Daleks return as well, with some subtle updates made, and I felt that they looked much better than the current models on screen, particularly with their colour scheme matching the city more. The score was very good, even if it was a bit too loud at points. The opening battle on Skaro was very much akin to the beginning of Genesis of the Daleks. The idea of the Doctor meeting a young Davros was really interesting, even if we didn't actually get to learn anything about young Davros, and the whole thing did look fantastic. However, there are so many plot holes littered throughout this story, so much padding, so many familiar Steven Moffat ideas just being reused, and the ending felt so poorly handled. The whole story just feels like a mixed bag. When it's good, it is fantastic. When it's not, it just brings up some recurring problems with Doctor Who that Steven Moffat still hasn't fixed. I really think that the show needs a new head writer to bring some fresh, new and original ideas to the table, as this story just felt like Steven Moffat was going through a checklist of plot points he wanted to cover and just filling in the rest with his usual tropes and cliches. By no means was this episode bad. but it really needed some major rewriting, especially when the episode is focused on the death of a character in a life support system who doesn't even die when he's not in it. Oh, whoever script edited this story did a terrible job, and considering that this is the BBC's most marketable show worldwide, this kind of quality doesn't set a great example for the company. I really hope that the next story is a major improvement. Doctor Who seems to be declining in quality, and as a fan of the show, I'm very disappointed. I give The Magician's Apprentice and The Witch's Familiar a 5 out of 10. Thank you for watching. Now, what did you guys think of the story? Let me know in the comment section below, and I'll see you all next time for Under the Lake and Before the Flood.